kick butt. And we're live. Oh, every time I say we're going to go live, it goes, oh, you're live, FYI. Oh, all right. Hello, you guys. Oh, I'm going to get a soundboard one of these days so it's not just me sitting here clapping. Soundboard that does the applause. Oh my gosh. Hello, you guys, and welcome to episode 75 of the TUF Woman Table. And as I was telling Mary here, I think we're actually really somewhere along the lines of 80 or 81. So that's pretty nuts. We're getting up there to episode 100, and it kind of feels crazy because I feel like I was just on episode 50, and here we are inching our way into episode 100. So, big deal there. But as you guys come in, say hey. Let us know where you're coming from. If you're coming from Facebook or YouTube, let us know. Make sure you guys interact, ask questions, drop comments. I will post them up on the screen as we go along. And feel free to join in this story, this conversation at TUF Woman. I believe the table is set for everybody to have a seat at. So as much as this is Mary's story, I want you guys to be immersed in it as well. So without further ado, I'm going to drop into my intro. Before I do that, though, if you catch this on the replay, hashtag replay, I would love to know your thoughts. And if you guys find value from this, if you love these stories, if you love these women, please share these episodes so that I can continue bringing more amazing women to you. So without further ado, hello and welcome to the TUF Woman Table, you guys. This is the table where I invite some super badass tough women like Mary here to take a seat and join in on the conversation and share her amazing story. At TUF Woman, I believe that all women have the power within themselves to live an authentic life, free from fear, confident in who they are, and empowered to go out and create a life that sets their soul on fire. I share this belief by championing tough women who have walked through the fire, felt the fear, faced adversity, and kept pushing through it all. Women who now live the life they want as the woman they were created to be, and women who own their stories so other women can embrace and own theirs as well. Because, as we all know, and as I always say, and as it will one day be written in my book, when you give yourself permission to own and share your story, you give someone else permission as well. So, Amen to that, right? Ain't that the truth? I actually did a podcast episode yesterday, and that's what we talked about. She talked about how do you turn your mess into your message? And I said, well, the thing about it is, I said, your mess is your message. So it's not about turning your mess into your message. It's about sharing your mess. It's not really a mess. It's just what you've gone through. Right. And I said, and when you allow that mess to come out, you give somebody else the ability to go, oh my God, you know what? If they can do it, I can do it too. So, so for me, that's like the biggest thing that I want to get across to people is when you do this, when you do something like this, and us having gone through Eris, we've seen it. When you do that, it not only
Eris sisters.
Yeah. Hey, Eris sisters. I'm gonna have to tag Kelly in this. I'm gonna have to tag Kelly. I'm gonna get there. I want to also make sure that the comments are coming through. But yeah, it's like when you do this, it gives other people permission in the process. So, anyways, you guys. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest, Mary. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me, Ashley.
I'm so excited, man. I remembered watching your you were the one who sent me your speaker reel, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I remember watching your speaker reel, and I remember when you went into the beginning of it. And I'm not going to tell it because that's your story, and I don't want to tell it. But I remember you going into it, and I was just like, oh my God. I was like, oh. But all right, without further ado, please, if you will, tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do and how you show up in the world.
I'm Mary Barras, and I'm a single mom, and I'm owner, I'm renter of Jonas, my son. You know, God just lends them to us. We don't get, they're not ours, but he's going to be 15 in 8 days, and he's the light of my life. We live here in Austin, Texas, and I've been a teacher in many different capacities for the last 30 years. And I'm a motivational speaker, which is the main thing.
Yes. Amen to that. Oh my God. And I love that you talk about, you're the first person well, first and foremost, I commend you on having a 15-year-old boy. My son is 8, And I'm sitting there like dreading the day we hit the teens because I'm like, God, he already eats so much. I don't even want to think about what a teenage boy eats because I have a teenage daughter. My daughter's 14.
Oh.
She eats a lot, and I've heard boys are worse. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
they can put it away.
God.
He mows through the whole pantry in the middle of the night.
Is it just like, is it a boy thing? Is it just like they have this initiative?
So.
Like, oh.
I guess it is because it's he's out of control. And then other times he just isn't hungry, you know, just doesn't want to eat. It's growing episodes, I guess.
Oh my gosh. All right. So I'm going to tag Kelly in this.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. All right. There we go. All right. Okay. Kelly. There we go. All right. All right, you guys. So close. We're going to close that out. All right. So you have a phenomenal story. And I think your headline, Devastation is a Choice, is really key to something that I've been talking about lately, about how everything that we do in life really starts as a choice. That we life is circumstantial, obviously. We go through things in life. And at the end of the day, we have that choice to choose how we view the things that we're going through. I always talked about, and dating back to that podcast I did last night, that was the other thing. She's like, how do you roll through the punches? And I said, well, I choose to view things that happen to me, not as that they're happening to me, but it's like why, they're happening for me, and what am I supposed to be taking from it? So again, It's back to having that choice to decide that this can either liberate me and be something that's empowering to me, or it can be something that's destructive and chaotic, and I can allow it to destroy my life. So I would really love for you. This is that deep dive I talk about. So what is the story behind Devastation as a Choice?
Okay. Well, I was going to comment on the last thing you said. The third thing is you can fall apart and go into a million pieces for a while. And then when you can finally get your head above water and see up above the neck high, you can decide to get better. Sometimes it's a combination of both. You can fall apart, and then at some point you do have to pick yourself up and say, I need to get back to the real world. I need to get back to living life and not letting it just pass me by. So my story is, I'm the youngest of 8 children. We grew up in Southeast Texas town, and my mother was mentally ill, and she had a really hard time with 8 children. It was a lot for her, but we were Catholic, and their views on birth control and things like that. So they just kept having more and more children. And when I was born, I came home from the hospital, but my mother went on to a mental institution because she just, I guess the thought of one more tugging on her apron string was too much for her to manage. So she went on to a mental hospital, and I went home, and nobody's really sure how long she stayed. One of my sisters remembers that she still wasn't home at Christmas, and I was born in August. And at some point, she came home, and she was still very ill, and she put scissors in my arm and tried to kill me. And of course, I don't remember anything about this. I was a baby, but it just shows how sick she was. And I don't blame her for this. I don't have bad feelings about her. I just have compassion, because I had one child and it was hard. And I just think about how my sweet poor mama had 8, and I can't even really imagine having all that noise and chaos in a house.
Mhm.
So my dad left when I was about 6 years old, and after the scissors in the arm incident, he hired a maid to be there 5 days a week for 8 hours to protect me from mom. And I just adored these women. It was 2 of them at 2 separate times. And they just loved on me. And they told me that, you know, your mom used to push you off of her, Mary, and you were my baby. I just loved you. And I mean, I I have such wonderful memories of being, um, excuse me,
What?
of being loved and mothered by these women. They were, I don't know what I would have done without them. They were amazing. My mother went on to take her own life in 1989. And my father went on to take his own life in 1999. I was 24 and 34 at those times. And those events just took me down, you know, just right as soon as I got to feeling better about, or be, as soon as I started being able to function well and thrive after my mom passed away. 10 years later, my dad took his own life, and it was a lot. You know, I remember thinking, you know, I wasn't close to my dad because he left when I was so young. But I remember thinking, this is the stuff in movies. I mean, is this going to mess me up for the rest of my life? Am I going to be just a mess for my whole life? And, you know, I dealt with that as best I could, and went on and, you know, lived a good life and became a teacher, and got married, and I'm divorced now. When I was married, we started to try to have a baby, and we got pregnant for my son named Josh, and he was a super cool little spirit. He We found out about 16 weeks pregnancy that he had Down syndrome. And thank God my ex-husband and I talked about the prospect of our baby having disabilities. And we both said, we'll just love them. It doesn't matter what they have. And so we were on the same page about that. And he was born, and we loved him to pieces, but he was born really, really sick. And he stayed in the hospital for 3 months, and it was a roller coaster ride. You know, one minute he was going to be fine, the next day it was touch and go for his whole life, his whole 3 months. And the doctor kept telling us, Josh will tell us when he can't do this anymore. He'll let us know. And Josh's body started shutting down, and he couldn't keep up this pace of being on this ventilator for 3 months. And they found out he had an incurable, untreatable disease that's not survivable. So we had to take him off of the ventilator, and he died in my arms. And this event broke me. I was an absolute disaster. You know, losing my son coupled with growing up with a mentally ill mom and having her die like she did, and then having my father take his life as well. And then my son dying, just, it took me out. And I didn't live a healthy lifestyle for many, many years. And, I wasn't in the land of the living. I was just, you know, I was behaving badly, except at home. I wasn't going out and doing crazy things. I just was not living a healthy lifestyle. But I did show up for my son. I have to say, I'm really proud of that. I got up every morning, took him and got him ready and cooked for him and took him to preschool. And as soon as I dropped him off, I'd come back and go back to bed and sleep until it was time to pick him up again. Because I would have stayed up so late the night before, drinking too much wine and crying and listening to music.
Yeah, and I just want to acknowledge the courage it takes to tell all that. I have never had to experience that level of loss in my life, and when you hear that, it humbles you enough to make you grateful that you haven't. But it's also, so I want to say first and foremost, so thank you for coming on here and being willing to share that story. I want to touch on a little bit about the thing that you talked about having compassion, because this is such a hard thing. And I think when we talk about devastation being a choice, this is one of the things that I want people to grasp. Compassion is a very necessary cog to moving forward in life. And I want to dive a little bit into how big was compassion in helping you move forward from the trauma that was, part of your life with your mom and stuff. How big was learning compassion towards your mom pivotal in helping you move forward so that it did not become something that was the dialogue of your life?
It's a really good question. It took me becoming a mother to have compassion, because it wasn't an easy household to grow up in. And becoming a mother showed me how hard it is with one child. I forgot to mention that we had another child a year or so after we lost our Josh. And yeah, and he's, like I said, 15, almost 15 now. I developed a lot of compassion for my mom when I became a mom, because it's not easy. And it's not for sissies, right, Ashley?
No, it's not. And it's good they don't give us a manual ahead of time, right? Or I don't think anybody would do this job willingly.
I know. And you know what? It's the word compassion is important to me, because I gained compassion for myself. During that time, I had so much self-loathing. I knew I wasn't living healthily and being the best person I could be. And I hated myself for it. But I didn't have the gumption to fix it until years later. And that's what I speak about now, is moving beyond your pain and trauma to find laughter and joy again. Because I've always been a person who loves to laugh and loves to make people laugh. And I realized one day that I wasn't laughing anymore. I forgot how to laugh. And I thought, oh my gosh, I remember laughing. I saw some people on social media, and they were cutting up and having a good time. And I thought, I used to do that. I want to do that again. And I got on the right antidepressant, and I laugh now. Praise God. I found my sense of humor again.
That's a beautiful thing. And and that, what really struck me, you said, is I was full of self-loathing. And, obviously going through all that, we take on a lot of things as we're growing up, especially from our parents and things. And that, I want to say that becoming a parent, when we talk about the compassion, becoming a parent made me realize that my parents, the things that I found fault in my parents for, that maybe I had wished I had grown up differently, or all the things that I thought were wrong about how I grew up, I realized were no different than what I was doing, because my parents actually had probably less faculties available to them for help, for any kind of proper guidance, I guess. But it took me becoming a parent, like you said, to realize that my parents were doing the best that they could when I was coming up.
That's
and
right.
that, I think as parents and as adults, we only do the best that we can.
Right.
And I love that you touched on self-loathing, because that was something that I feel was not only a narrative for myself, but as women in general, that's a narrative we grow up dealing with, right?
Absolutely.
We're okay, but we're never quite good enough. And I feel like that's the messaging that comes across to us, and that's what's pushed down our throats. And I want to ask, what was that pivotal point that really helped you to start coming above the surface? We talk about, you said, you come up at some point and you can see. So I always view it as when it's hitting you, I look at it from the context of like a tsunami wave barreling you over.
Yeah.
So it's like, what was that point where you came up and you finally came up for breath and you were like, okay, this is not so hard?
I think probably it was getting on the right antidepressant. I'd been on one for many, many years. And my psychiatrist would say, so, when I'd see him, how's the medicine? And I'd say, fine, I guess, because I realize now that I forgot what it felt like to be happy. Mm. And so I had just gotten so used to plugging along, making it through the day and having no joy whatsoever. And finally one day, I thank God for vanity sometimes. I don't have a lot of it, but I'm really grateful for this bit that I had, because I heard that the antidepressant I was on causes weight gain. So I asked my psychiatrist about it. He said, yeah, it's true. And I said, well, gosh, it's not like I was living this unbelievably healthy lifestyle and it was the antidepressant that was keeping me. But I just thought, I'll take any help I can get. So I said, can we switch that, please? Because I don't even know that I'm happier. And so we tried another one and it didn't work. And then he said, let's go a whole opposite direction. And I got on this one, and I'm not kidding you, Ashley. The grass was greener. The food tasted better. The colors were brilliant. I hadn't felt those things, that kind of raw joy, not from something happening, because I view joy as something that makes you feel good, that doesn't come from a happening. It comes from nothing. And I think that's the difference between happiness and joy. And I started feeling joy again, and it was miraculous. Thank God for antidepressants, really. And then it just built from there. I looked at my son, and he was, getting a little older. He was going into first grade. And I thought, he deserves to see a better example than this. I don't want him to grow up and think that I'm living what he sees of me is a stellar lifestyle. Because I wasn't living a stellar lifestyle. I was barely surviving, so to speak. Not financially, but, in the world of thriving. And, I did it for him. I thought, he deserves better than this. I don't want him to grow up and be like this.
Amen to that. And I'm going to touch on it. But Lee says, I like that. I found my sense of humor again. Just the fact that something was lost or taken, and now the power of having it found again. That is a testimony to share and to heal others. Amen to that, Lee. It really is.
Thank you, Lee. Yeah.
Angela says, great message to share. And sometimes people need medicine to help, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. And that's true.
Absolutely. So true.
I really feel like, and this is, you mentioned your mom going to the mental health facility when, after you were born. I think for so long, especially as women, we were made to feel like part of that inferiority. It's like, if there's something wrong with you, just take something and we're going to fix you. And there comes that stigma with mental health. It's like, you need to be fixed. And it's, I always tell people it's not, because, I have a daughter and she struggles with mental health issues, serious mental health issues. Yeah. And that was
Ashley. God bless her.
Huh?
God bless y'all.
Yeah, it's been a journey. My whole January, actually, before, when Eris was, when February,
March.
Okay. So my daughter, and she actually came on and did a show after she did it. So my daughter went through, and I only share the bare minimum because I like to be respectful of her. It's her journey,
Yes.
But my daughter went through some serious mental health crisis in January, like a full, I want to call it a full rupturing of self, of her psyche. And we were just very immersed in that. And for so long, I've never wanted to be the parent that medicated my child, because I grew up with a brother who had ADHD and grew up in the age of Ritalin, and just give them some Ritalin and they'll be all right. You know what I mean? And I remember seeing what that did to my brother, and how it kind of just took the life out of him. And I remember, so, when these things came up, I had to really come to terms with my own stigmas against medication. And I had to have a real deep heart to heart with myself about, this is my daughter's journey. And if this is what she feels that she needs to make herself better, to help her, because at that point in time where my daughter was at mentally, she just didn't want to be here anymore. She really didn't. She just not, she just didn't want to live life anymore. And I always tell people, I say you always hear about people fighting for their life and wanting to live. I said, but we don't often talk about the reality of what happens when they don't want to live anymore and you have to fight for them.
Yes.
I never thought at 14 years old that I would be fighting for my daughter to want to stay here, like literally like just wanting to shake her and go like, you need to be here. Your life has worth. And so for my daughter, she ended up going on medicine, and actually for her, the medicine, like what you said in the beginning, it just made her numb. She's like, I just don't feel anything. She said, I don't feel like, I want to die. She said, but I just don't feel anything. So we've actually gone back to a more holistic way. So we went to CBD, and that's helped her a tremendous amount.
Right.
I think there's so much stigma still around what it means to be medicated. And the messaging is that to be medicated means to be broken. That being medicated means you're being
I'm on a mission. I'm on a crusade. I tell people my antidepressants are delicious. They make me thrive. They make me not hurt anymore. I kid about it being delicious, but I have no problem with taking them. I have no problem with anyone judging me for taking them. It doesn't matter, because what I know for sure is that they make me feel so much better. And, I just don't deal with judgers.
Amen to that. And Lee said a couple things. She said, this comment made me think about medicine coming in different forms, spiritual, physical, and emotional, as well as medication that was mentioned. Yeah. And that, there's all kinds of ways. Sometimes people do need someone to fight for them. Yeah. It's sad that everyone, it really is. And sometimes, my daughter, she asked me, she said, why are you fighting so hard? I said, because first and foremost, I'm your mom. I said, I'm your mom, and I'm here to fight with you, for you, in this life, in the next life. I said, that doesn't ever stop. I said, but I'm here to fight for you because at some point in time, you're going to start fighting for yourself again.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you're going to know how to do that is for me to give you that opportunity. So, that I think the thing that's wonderful and that I love that you advocate about the medication is sometimes how can you choose to come over your devastation if you can't even breathe?
Yeah. You cannot even breathe. I was writing something the other night. I think it was a blog. And I was talking about how when you're in the depths of depression, there's a stage where you don't think about there being a different way. You haven't gotten to the stage yet where you're thinking, okay, this isn't a good lifestyle. You can't see that far ahead of that far above the quicksand. You're still just right here, and you forget that there's a better way of life. You just don't have that that awareness that I used to be a thriving, jiving teacher, and I had relationships and friends, and now I'm living, I'm isolating myself, so yeah, I just appreciate you putting this show on every month or week?
I do it twice a week. Well,
Oh,
the
wow.
is now once, but well, it's important, and this is it comes back to the one person sharing their story allows somebody else. So, you coming on here and talking about how I'm happy, I thank God for medication. Like, for me, I thank God that there was that intervention for my daughter, that she has that choice.
Yes.
I thank God that there was the ability to provide her help, no matter what anybody else thought, because, my daughter, she has a friend whose family does not feel the same way about medication. And she's 15 dealing with some serious shit. And I'm just like, there has to be, and there has to be a way to release the stigma. And that way is by talking about these things, when and just to not get off your story, but when I started the show, the reason I started it was because, and the reason I actually started everything that I do now, was because I wanted to have conversations. I am obsessed with having conversations, and not the superficial, conversations that we see, but the conversations that we don't have, the ones that we need to have, the ones that aren't always pretty and nice. And there's not a happy ending. Like, look what happened in your life. Your parents committed suicide. You went through these things. And so life, what I wanted to show is that life is not always pretty. It's not. It sucks sometimes, but there is a way to come through. There is a way to choose to not allow life to be the thing that keeps us oppressed, because at the end of the day, you get that choice. Is there a government and all these other circumstances in life? Yes, but that's always going to be the constant. I always tell people, I said, if there's any constant in life, you can guarantee it's that you never know, or it's that there's always going to be something. There's always going to be something. Like today, before this show, I'll admit, I was having one of my days. I was having a day. I was stuck in my own mind. And that happens. And I have that choice to get up and not allow that to continue playing, to go, okay, you know what? I'm going to honor what's going on right now within myself. And I'm going to choose to be with that. And then tomorrow is going to be another day, and it's going to be a better day. And so, back to it. That's why I did this, because to me, this is important. To me, it's important to remind people, not just women, that we have a voice, and that we go through these things for a reason. And oftentimes it looks really crazy in when we're going through it. It's easy to not be able to see the sun when it's always raining.
Yes.
It's easy. Yeah. But what always, but I always tell people, what always happens after the storm? The storm ends sometimes, and then what happens?
The birds come out and they start tweeting, and the sun comes out and everything gets dry, and you go out and the humidity goes away and it feels so much better.
Mhm. And, you know, and life resumes. So
Yeah.
I think someone is a quote or something I read somewhere. It's like, if there's one thing I can tell you about life, it's that it goes on. So
It
for
marches on, doesn't it?
yeah, and
Mhm.
Lee says, you were right on target. I wish there was an early development course or class for our children, teens, to teach them how to talk about difficult topics in general. So I want to touch on that a moment, Lee, and then, you know what, Mary, I want your thoughts on this. So the reason I really got into coaching women specifically, and the reason I'm so passionate about helping women find their unfuckwithable self, as I call it,
I love it.
which is really just your most authentic self. It actually came from being a parent. It came from growing up and seeing that certain things that I didn't love, and coming into being a very young parent. I had my daughter when I was 17. And I remember along the part of my journey where I woke up, you know, I had that what the fuck moment where you're like, that moment where you're like, okay, this isn't my life anymore. Like you said, I just knew that I wanted to be happy. I wasn't laughing anymore. Like that was my moment where I was like, this isn't going to work. So
Right.
I knew that in order for my children to grow up to be healthy adults, or for what I hope to be healthy adults that could navigate the world, and navigate a world in where they felt their emotions, where they weren't afraid to of their own emotions, where they weren't afraid to have conversations. It started with me being able to show up in that space first.
Yep.
So you guys, we can't wait for a early development course to come in and teach our kids how to navigate themselves. In fact, actually, I listened to Impact Theory, and he had Sadhguru on, and he's a Indian yogi. He's a Indian guru, as they call it.
Nice.
And he talked about how oh darn, it just left me for a second. He talked about how we have the ability to make those choices and start off as being the example, right? We have the ability to be the example for other people. And at the end of the day, I knew that in order for my children to show up in the space that I hope that they showed up in, that's what it was, that I had to show up first, but also I had to remove all of my own beliefs and my ideologies about how I thought they should be.
Oh, yes.
In order to allow them to actually develop into their greatest potential. Because so often as parents, we do it because first and foremost, that's how we grew up. We take on what we grew up.
It's the only model we have.
Yeah. And we imprint beliefs and ideologies and ways of being onto our children that aren't actually our children's.
Right.
And the way of parenting I'm about to promote is actually incredibly counterculture. It's very counterintuitive to what culture tells us to be, right? So in order for our children to live up to their potential, not our potential, not the dreams you have for your children, because again, those are your dreams,
right,
for your children, not your children's dreams.
Right.
In order for my children to be the people that they are meant to be, I have to release any expectations I have for them and concentrate on how I show up for myself. Because if I can show up for myself and I can show my children the example of showing up for themselves, they're going to start showing up for themselves in a way that is going to allow them to tap into their greatest potential. And what that means is they're going to be able to have hard conversations. My 14-year-old had to set boundaries with her adult father. That is not an easy thing.
No.
She did it at 14, and she did it in a way that is grace beat 3 times her age. I don't know many people her age, let alone 10, 20, 30 years older than her, that have the grace to handle the situation she does with
Good for her.
And Kelly says hi.
Hey, Kelly.
And then Lee says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. So I have to ask you on this part, becoming a parent, what was the biggest shift that it caused in your journey in regards to really being able to shift the way you looked at the devastation within your life?
Well, my tagline, Devastation is a Choice, comes from in 1989 when my mother died. I sought counseling, and I had this Irish guy who was a Catholic priest for a while, but he fell in love, and he fell in love with a parishioner and got married to her and left the priesthood, and then he became an Episcopal priest. And I was in college at the time, and he did counseling for free. And, you know, he said, you know, your mother has died in a horrible way, and it's affected you tremendously. And it's okay to be sad about it. It's okay to grieve it and to go through this trouble. But it doesn't have to devastate you, Mary. You can pick yourself up after you've grieved and let your body, your mind, and your spirit do the things, the natural things that it needs to do after such a big loss. And he said, devastation is a choice. So after all of these things, you know, that was only after my mother died. I had no idea what was in store for me. But, you know, the choice for me came from looking at my son and knowing what an extraordinary human he is, even when he was a little guy, and just thinking, he deserves better than what I'm showing him. I'm showing him a life that I'm not proud of. I want him to be proud of me. So that's what it was for me. When finally I could see above the quicksand, and for a while I couldn't, and I couldn't make any decisions about getting better. I was just putting one foot in front of the other. And finally, you know, I could see that this needs to stop, and he deserves to have a mama that he wants to introduce to other people.
I love that. I love that. So what was the pivot point? What was the point that you decided that you wanted to start talking about this and sharing her story? Because that's not something that a lot of people can still do. So what was that part where you're like, you know what, this is going to help somebody?
Yeah, it was a year ago. And Kelly Hager with Eris Sisters put out on Instagram a post that said, do you have a story? And I thought to myself, do I have a story? But, you know, at that point, two or three psychologists had told me that they'd never met anyone who'd been through so much tragedy as I had. But, you know, you just put one foot in front of the other and you don't think about it like that, you know. But I wrote back to the Eris Sisters and I said, have I got a story for you? Just to see what they'd say. I just didn't even know if it was real. And they wrote back and said, tell us. So I wrote it out, and then we formed a relationship, and I recorded my speaker reel with them, and have been associated with them since then, and have been promoting myself as a motivational speaker, and have been going around and speaking and trying to show people that there is joy beyond the pain of your trauma. And, you know, I want to laugh again is what my underlying and overlying thoughts were after I realized, after Kelly and Jane said, this is really unique. This story is really unique. And I was just like, yeah, I mean, you know, you just live with it for so long, you don't know how to put it in perspective. And they said, you know, you really need to tell this story. And I said, well, I've always wanted to help people. And that's why I was a teacher. And then it all started coming together. I just thought, I was put on this earth to do this, to talk to people about how they can get better, even after one tragedy. Because I went through, you know, there's a suicide in my family that really isn't my story to talk about, but it affected me deeply. And so, you know, if I can go through 4 tragic events, then a person can go through 1 or 2. And I want to help them see that and make them laugh and make them know that the belly misses those laughs. The belly's aching for those laughs again.
I love that. That made me laugh when you talked about it, but that's so true. And I think people need to understand the one thing that intrigues me about your story is what you're talking about really is a lot of family trauma. And this is something that I wish we talked about more. So you always hear, well, this is how it's always been. And this is the way I was raised. And what I want to tell people is it doesn't have to always, this doesn't have to be the way it's always been.
You can break the cycle. Break the cycle. That's what I'm doing.
I was like, when I first started and I got into generational trauma and epigenetics and like all the other things that can lead you into that rabbit hole particularly, I was just like, man, you guys, it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to continue carrying along the curses of your, you know, not curses, but they call them generational curses.
Yes.
Family. It doesn't have to be that way. And is that something that you touch on about how to break, you know, that choice to break that pattern in the family?
Yes. You know, it's got to stop somewhere. And, you know, you just have to say, it stops with me, and just get angry, whatever you need to do to feel that passion. It stops with me, and my son won't experience it.
And that's honestly, that's my favorite thing. Yeah. Our kids won't experience it. And there are so many times where I see other people and, you know, I'm just like, I want to shake them and go, God, it doesn't have to be that way. You know, you don't have to suffer with this. You are putting yourself through unneeded and unnecessary suffering, like for no reason. You just don't have to do this.
Yeah.
And, Angela says, you let them know there's happiness on the other side and not to give up.
Right. Absolutely, Angela.
And that, you know what, I think that's actually, to me, one of the most important reasons why we should share our story, because somebody needs to know what it looks like to not give up.
Yeah. Yes. You know, and yeah, you're right about sharing the story. You know, Hoda Kotb, who's on the Today Show, she has this thing where she talks about you can't hog your journey. She went through cancer, and her husband at the time was a terrible person, evidently, or something. And she, you know, talks about how we have got to talk about the pain that we've been through and how we overcame it. We can't hog that to ourselves. We have to share it and show people and be examples for them. You're right.
Yes, we really can't, because it's through somebody else, through your own pain, again, and your healing, that you show somebody it's possible for them to overcome anything that they're going through.
Yes.
Because yeah, at the end of the day, we have that choice to overcome. We have that choice to say that I want to be happy. Like for me, that was part of it, is like, I want to be happy. I don't want to keep doing the same song and dance. I just want to be happy. And even now, like my thing is like, I just want to be happy with myself.
Me too.
I want to wake up in the morning and be one of those women that's just like, God, I just love this. This is enough.
No more self-loathing. That's what I love. That's what I love about me. I don't hate myself anymore. And that is refreshing, I got to say, waking up in the morning. Sorry for interrupting you, but
Oh, no, you're good.
that's been huge for me, because that's let me let go of so many things. And I'm so much nicer to myself. And I go so much easier on myself. And I give myself liberties and say, it's okay. Tomorrow's another day. You're doing great. You just keep pedaling that boat. You know, those paddle boats. I'm thinking, you know, where your feet were going. That's what came to my brain.
And you know what? That's something that I often need to remind myself of, to be nicer to myself.
Yes, treat yourself like you do your best friend.
Yeah. And why, I want to ask this, like, why is it so hard for women, especially? I feel like it's probably hard for everybody, but for women, man, we are, and I can say that from personal experience, I am the hardest on myself. And I think it's probably because anybody else is too afraid to like be as hard on me as I am on myself. But we're so hard on ourselves to the point where it's just like, if somebody I knew was talking to me the way I talk to myself sometimes, I think I would have punched him in the face.
Ashley, stop
Yeah.
the madness right now. I'm not even kidding you. Right this second, it's over. I used to be the butt of my own jokes all the time because it's funny, I used to do that all the time because it's right there on your mind. But I said to myself one day, words are so powerful. And whatever I'm saying about myself hears it. And that's what it'll continue to think and continue to present. So if I hear you talking bad about yourself, or if I hear about it, I'm going to come hunt you down. Stop the madness.
Please do. Mine is more, I actually like myself. Mine is more of you could have done more today. Why aren't you doing this? I keep getting the message that I need to be resting, but my
do it. What do you think? You're smarter than the dude or the entity that's giving you the message? You're not smarter. You're not stronger than him or her or whatever it is. Listen to it.
I know and I'm thankful for you for calling me out for that, because I'll say this on this show. I for any woman, especially because I feel this is important. Part of my mess is that I feel I have always felt this need to prove and live up to these expectations. And I'm coming to realize that the only thing that's doing is making me a prisoner within myself. You guys, you can make yourself a prisoner within yourself. I have self-sabotaged so much because I never live up to my own high expectations. And I won't tell you that the journey to unbecoming all that is the easiest journey, but it is a journey worth taking, and it's a journey that I'm on.
And you're worth it.
Yeah, it is, because every single day
you're worth it. Not it is worth it. You're worth it.
I am worth it. And all the women and people in here are watching it. You're worth it too, because I realize, one of the things I realize is that, and someone sent me this, they're like, the key to a happy life is balance and moderation and just having joy. And I'm like, when you were talking about joy, I'm like, God, when was the last time I felt like real joy? Like just happy and at peace. And generally that's when I'm with my kids. But I asked myself, I was like, when was the last time you felt joy by yourself, with yourself?
Yeah.
And I'll say this because you said it, joy cannot come. I mean, you're going to feel joy around other people, but if joy does not come from you first, if you don't feel joy, just waking up, like that's something I've begun to start practicing, is waking up and just being happy for the fact that I woke up. I mean, how many of us wake up and we're like, oh my God, I have to do life again? It's like, God, you woke up. There are people in this world that don't have that honor, or they wake up and they're attacked. They are in pain. They can't, like, they don't have what you have. And I think it was Tony Robbins I was watching. He was talking with Michael Singer. He's like, he talked about going to India and going to the most poverty-stricken places, and these people are just happy.
I know.
Happy.
It blows my mind, really. It honestly does. I mean, it makes me feel kind of sorry for our nation.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I did, and one thing I vow to start doing is funny because I build all my following on social media, but what I realized was I was falling into the trap, the validation trap, the one I tell people not to fall into, and I was like, and so I took all the social media off my phone. I said, no more, man, no freaking more, no more of the validation game.
Good.
More
yeah,
of,
it is. It's like high school.
It is. And that, and so you guys, like Mary says here, devastation of the choice, but every single day that you wake up, that's your choice. That's your choice. Like I always like to say, today is a great day to have a great day.
Yeah.
Every day you get the choice to decide what day you have. You think that you're going to have one day, and here's the deal. If you think that that's the day you're going to have, if that's what you speak, guess what? That's the day you're going to have. If you
because
decide.
Words have so much power.
So yeah. So every day you have that choice, victory or victimhood.
Yeah.
That's what you get.
My son and I used to say, today's a great day. I can and I will.
Exactly. Amen to that.
Yes.
All right. Mary, if you'll believe it, we're 4 minutes to 8:30.
I can't believe it. That was fun.
Wasn't it? See, I told you it's not. You guys, when people come onto the show, they think an hour it's gonna be like, oh my God, what am I gonna talk about? But yeah, it goes by very fast. So that's why I always say, like, you'll have fun. No, don't worry. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's good. I feel better, honestly. I mean, I wasn't feeling bad today. I was feeling a little bit nervous for this, but I feel energized now after talking with you, and you've helped me and inspired me.
Well, I likewise. You go and you just stop right now. Like, so, I need that. For anybody who doesn't know me very well, I'm like, you have to shake me sometimes because sometimes I can't see past my own self. And
well, you listen to that voice that says rest.
Yeah,
I did in that voice.
I did. I have actually rested more in the last 2 weeks than I have in years. So it's getting there. But things come back sometimes. But like I said, that's my choice to honor them when they come up. And to go, you know what, you can be here, but you can't drive the car. That's what I always say. You can be here, you can back seat, but you can't drive the car. Don't touch the steering wheel.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the part I always like to ask if someone, when you're speaking or when someone comes up to you and they ask for some life advice or tips, what are three pieces of advice or tips that you give them to take with them?
Nothing matters. I mean, I know that sounds radical, but the things that we have disagreements with people, it's like you want it to be this way and they want it to be that way. I just ask myself, how important is it to me to really get my way? Do I really, really need it to be this way? Or is it a power thing? and then if I say to myself, it's not that big a deal, let it go. Let it go. That's my first. Let it go, and it doesn't matter. Number 2, talk to yourself so nicely, like you're your best friend. And if you were telling your best friend, you don't picture this, you don't deserve whatever her name is, Sally. No, you shouldn't rest. You're being lazy. You don't deserve to rest. You haven't done enough. How would that make her feel? She'd feel pretty shitty. We don't want that. So apply that to yourself. The third thing would be just tell people how you feel about them. Everybody says tell people you love them. Please do. Tell them you're proud of them.
I love that. That makes me happy. I'm going to have to go tell people I love them after this. I really am.
Tell them you're proud of them.
Mm. All right, Mary. So thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Tell everybody about where they can connect with you for anybody who wants to connect with you after this.
Go to marybarras.com. It's my website. I'm on Instagram as mary.barras. I'm on Facebook as Mary Barras in Austin, Texas. And where else am I? Oh, I'm on LinkedIn as Mary Barras, Austin, Texas. And you can email me on my website. It has a link to email me. And I just hope that I can, when all this craziness ends and we get out, they unlock our doors, I can get out and speak for your group, your corporation, your ladies organization, and inspire them and let them know that we deserve to laugh again after trauma.
Amen to that.
Amen.
I really do. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. I am so grateful,
Ashley,
for coming on here.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. This has really been a good show for me. I think all the shows are phenomenal, but this one, sometimes I get them and they hit home for me because I have to hear it.
Nice.
Yeah. And so I always say that as much as I feel like this is always for, whatever woman comes across, it's just as much for me too.
Yes.
Because you think that you're impacting somebody or whatever, but really, you're the one being impacted. And
That's right. Because words are powerful.
And you guys, you be open to all situations in life, because had it not been for Kelly and Eris, which I'm going to plug right now, for anybody, any woman that is looking to really share their story in a way that is profound and phenomenal, Kelly Hager, who is on the comments here, you need to reach out to her and connect.
Yes.
I met Mary at their branding workshop, and I've known Kelly for about the same amount of time you have. I met them through Instagram too. I remember the first time I talked to Jane.
Oh, nice.
And, yeah, and I saw the same post. It's like, do you have a story? I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. So be open to everything that comes. But yeah, Kelly and Eris, I can't exclaim enough what they've done for my life.
Nice.
They're actually a massive inspiration for the show. The ability to give women a platform to use their voice in a way that is empowering and inspiring for both them and other women, to me was just like the ultimate mission to have, to really just provide something that was for women and provided a space where women felt that their voice was heard and that they were powerful and they understood that. So that was such a big, huge inspiration for this. So for any woman who wants to share their story, please come on this show, obviously, but link up with Kelly and Eris sisters, ARRAS sisters. They will forever change your life. Jane, Kelly, everybody, just a phenomenal, amazing group of people. I always consider myself part. Yeah. Eris family for life, man.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. It was, I know what it was. I'm proud of this that you've built. You should be proud of yourself for having the chutzpah to get up and make a show twice a week.
It was 3 times when I first started.
Wow.
Don't ask. I was nuts in the beginning. I was just like, I'm just going to get this going.
Good.
It's taken on a life of its own. And sometimes I think the reason that I feel a lot of resistance towards other things that I try to bring into the world is because I'm really supposed to focus on the thing that's already sitting right in front of me.
There you go.
So
right.
Whatever that looks like, I don't know, but we'll see. All right, Mary, we're going to end this. I'm just so grateful for this conversation, you guys.
I'm grateful for you.
I'm grateful for you. So, all right, you guys, I will see you on Tuesday for our roundtable discussion, where we're going to start talking some fun energy about how to create balance within ourselves. So I hope everybody joins us 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. And as always, we'll be back again on Thursday as well for another story. I hope everybody reaches out and connects with Mary. She is a phenomenal human being. You can find her story on YouTube too, right?
Yes.
On YouTube. So if you go to the Air Sisters YouTube, she is on there. You really need to listen to that speaker reel. It's even more amazing than what she's told us tonight. So thank you guys so much for being here. I want to take the time, since Mary pointed out, I'm so grateful for you guys, for everybody that comes on here, for Angela. Angela's been with me since the first episode. 80-some episodes, Angela, and we're still going, right? We're still going. I always say that when this show really takes off, she's going to have a VIP box wherever I'm at, so that she can have a front row seat.
Yeah.
Right? So awesome. I'm grateful because you guys, even when my expectations are like, well, there should be more people, da 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 da, you guys remind me that I'm here for the one person, for the one woman who needs to see this show. That's who makes it. Right. You guys are a tremendous reminder, and for the times when I can't see past the quicksand, I have amazing people because of this show that come in and remind me that, like you, you're worth more than you give yourself credit for. So yes. I thank you for that. So, absolutely. All right, that's
okay. I'm gonna go cook hamburgers on the grill now.
All right. Well, you guys, everybody have a great night. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Ashley.
You guys, Tuesday.